so they started taking me to piano lessons where I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed learning about it, but until my teacher started giving me very confusing advice. She started telling me to put more feeling into my playing. And I had no idea what she meant, because in my head, making music and playing the piano was pressing keys and counting in my head to make sure that I hit the keys in time to the sheet music that was in front of me, and as long as that correlated, I would make music, and that was my only goal. So I never understood what she meant, but as I grew older, I got really curious about what music really was, where did it come from, and why is it so common now? So the very definition of music is that it's an art of sound and time that expresses ideas and emotions in significant forms through the elements of rhythm, melody, and harmony. The origins of music are highly debated. So most of them are rooted in that we saw music in nature to some degree, and then we adapted that. So one of these is madriz, which is the way that mothers talk to their children. They don't use the same pitch. They get quieter or louder depending on what's going on. Another one is that it could have started as a predator control system. So like if a group of humans were walking through the forest and they wanted to keep predators away, they'd be banging sticks on bushes or shouting or doing things like that. And most likely, as humans discovered that these different sounds evoke emotions from other humans, they started using them in rituals. Prehistoric music was most likely, like I mentioned, animal and nature-based, so flutes were probably based on bird singing and adapted from that. And drums could have been evoked from any kind of rhythmic observation of the world. It wasn't until ancient Greece where Pythagoras dissected music into a science, and he started the basis of music theory, which is the octave scale, and also that's where musical notation started. Moving on to the Middle Ages, music started to evolve into more simple melodies, and because most people weren't able to use music on an everyday basis because they were poor and there was lots of diseases everywhere, so they were kind of distracted from that. So it wasn't the church where most music was developed and studied. So it started with very simple melodies that were meant to calm people and to evoke reverence. This then evolved into the Renaissance era, where things got calmer, technology advanced a little bit, and melodies started to be combined. Several complex melodies would be combined into one. This then moved on to the Baroque era, where things became even more complex. Musicians such as Bach, who is a very strong representative musician of that era, would improvise on his pieces that were already very complex to further show his technical skill. So technical skill was very highly valued, and often more rich people would hire these musicians to entertain and to perform at their functions. In the classical era, this was a response to the overly extravagant eras before, and it started to go back to more simple, balanced structures. Musicians such as Mozart started to see themselves more as artists rather than just servants to the wealthy that would entertain them. This then evolved into the Romantic era, where things started to get much more expressive and emotional. Beethoven, who is believed to be the one that started the Romantic era, started showing different ways in how he would compose his music. For example, his song titles changed even. It used to be that you would name your song, which would be the type of song it is, and then the key it's in. So you'd have like a minuet in G, or a canon in D. Whereas Beethoven he still used that for some of his pieces, but he started changing it. So for example, he has the Moonlight Sonata and the Pathetique Sonata. And he also had some pieces like Rage Over a Lost Penny, which was only about emotion, really. After the Romantic era, we come to the Contemporary era, where thanks to technology, things have completely changed and kind of exploded. But what's interesting to note that even though there are so many different genres, what they all have in common is that they all use a lot of percussiveness. Almost all these genres have a very strong rhythm, one simple melody that is seen throughout the whole song but is supported by everyone, and a specific type of structure. Usually if it's a lyrical song, it'll be a verse, chorus, and so on, with some variations, of course. But what I find most interesting is that as music becomes more experimental, and it changes even further, there's something that everybody finds to relate to. For example, in my case, even after learning about music for the past few years, I still am not really sure what my teacher meant when she told me to play with more feeling, because I found that the music that I find emotion in might not be the same music she did. And that's why I think it's so great that music is still evolving and changing, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Thank you.